Now I'm in between classes and my life has calmed down, at least for the time being. I have some time to devote to writing some more YouTube videos. I'm still working on a video about my complete educational philosophy because there's a lot to explain before I begin talking about the importance of education and my feelings about it, though I do touch on it a little bit in this video. However, for now, I would like to leave you with my thoughts on two of UO people's common criticisms. The first one being, the University of the People is not regionally accredited. First, let me start off by saying I've received several comments on my channel about University of the People not being regionally accredited. This is currently an issue for students wishing to transfer their credits to another university or get a job where they are competing with graduates from universities with regional accreditation. Essentially, it is up to other universities and companies as to whether they want to take a chance on University of the People students and graduates. It is important to know that the educational model that University of the People follows is relatively new and is born from the spread of internet technologies. Every new approach to well-established models are likely to encounter resistance in the beginning, but that does not mean every new approach is fatally flawed or that they have little value. The opportunity for all kinds of students from all over the world and from diverse backgrounds to participate in a shared educational experience is worth the struggle. I have learned so much about the world from my studies so far and from hearing from everyone who comments on my YouTube channel. Ultimately, this is one of my main reasons for embracing online education and specifically University of the People. Sure, there are plenty of free ways to get exposure to other cultures via the internet, but a structured educational environment provides you with a sense of community in addition to the relevant course materials that will get you on the right path to self-improvement. Humanity is facing great challenges presently and in the future, and the only way to overcome them is to prepare everyone to develop solutions. Education is essential in that mission. It must not only be reserved for the elite. Education should not be a commodity, and right now it absolutely is. University of the People is an organization that is working on changing the notion that education should be only for people who can afford it, which is another reason why I want to continue studying here. Ultimately, I am someone who does not want to accept taking on enormous debt to have the privilege of marketing myself in the future. Neither do I want to accept a life of mediocrity because the only way to get ahead is to take on such debt. In my opinion, this is exactly the kind of person that companies should want to hire. Someone who doesn't want to accept a broken system and is willing to forge alternative paths to get to where they want to go. We have the tools, there is no excuse. There are many people who are critical of online education, and I am one of those people. Personally, when given a choice, I would prefer to study in a classroom versus online. Reading can teach you a lot, but it is not enough to simply read without seeking experiences to solidify your knowledge. However, there are many ways to supplement book learning so you can get a more holistic understanding of the subjects you are studying. This looks different for everybody, but essentially, how you choose to supplement your online education with experience is vital to your success. For some people, it will simply be watching YouTube lectures and completing practice side projects. For others, it can be volunteer or internship experiences that must be sought out individually. Seeking out mentors can be really helpful, but learning how to find answers on your own is a very relevant skill in the workplace. Relying on outside help too much can become a crutch, so it is good to learn when and how to ask for assistance. Either way, the more you get involved with what you're studying outside of your required readings, the more successful you will be. Opportunities don't fall from the sky, but they can be found if you take the initiative to look. Everyone, even people who have gone to regionally accredited schools, must face this reality. Life is not fair, but excuses will do nothing but keep you from growing. You need to be able to identify your weaknesses and seek out ways to improve them, and this process may require short-term sacrifices. You need to be able to demonstrate your knowledge to graduate schools and prospective employers, and it is likely that the burden of proof will rest heavily on you if you decide to study at University of the People. Quite frankly, I feel like that's the way it should be no matter what school you attend. But unfortunately, the name of the school on your degree can carry more weight these days than your intelligence and work ethic. However, I encourage you to rise to the challenge and show the world what you're made of. Will your journey be perfect? No. Will you fail from time to time? Absolutely. At the risk of sounding cliche, you should use those failures as opportunities to identify your weaknesses and aspire to perform better in the future. Contrary to what your social media feeds might be telling you, nobody is perfect. The faster you can forgive yourself for your mistakes, the faster you can get on with the business of improvement. The second point that I want to talk about is about University of the People's peer review system. And a lot of people say that it's not helpful. It is a common source of anxiety for new students, not only because they may not know how to best grade other students, but because sometimes the grades received from other students are unfair and the comments can be downright hurtful. First, let me say that I have experienced both of these scenarios firsthand. For open-ended answers or essays, it can be very challenging to decide how to grade another student. Even in math classes, when answers are either right or wrong, there are still scenarios that present themselves where it isn't totally clear how to grade someone. For example, what should you do if a student has correct work right up until the answer, but then makes a mistake right at the end? What if they submit correct answers and no work at all? It might be tempting to email the professor for every question you have about grading assignments. There are guides on peer grading provided by the university, as well as ongoing discussions from other University of the People students that can help you if you're really struggling on proper grading. Instructors are volunteers and are likely very busy, so it is my opinion that you should only contact them if you've exhausted all other means of problem solving. Personally, I think the best way to approach proper peer grading is to simply use your best judgment. The important outcome is to help each other learn and not to obsess over 1 or 2 points. If you think it is appropriate to dock someone for points for not showing their work, even if the correct answer is provided, and the assignment dictated that work must be shown, then it is your prerogative to decrease the student's score for not showing their work. However, you should always say why you choose to dock points, so the student isn't wondering what they did wrong. If you can justify your action with words, there is a high likelihood the student will agree with your assessment and create better assignments in the future. Another challenge with peer grading is what to do if you don't fully understand the subject material and you're forced to grade another student's work with this deficiency. To me, this is more of an issue than the previous one I just discussed. And I'm studying computer science, as most of you are well aware. And as someone with only a passing familiarity with computer systems, I've encountered this problem many times. Computer science is a challenging field of study, and I am sure there are times when even experts disagree on the basics. Here's the beauty of it though. If you're forced to grade someone else's work and you don't have a strong grasp of the material yourself, you are presented with yet another opportunity to learn. You've already submitted your assignment, and perhaps the answer you gave doesn't match up with the answer sheet provided for peer grading. You realize, uh-oh, I was wrong. Here, you can ask yourself, what did I get wrong? Are other students making the same mistake I did? Can I follow the logic and come to conclusions as the answer sheet, the same conclusions as the answer sheet? Do I need to further research to come up to these conclusions? You should be doing whatever it takes to understand those concepts so you can not only grade other students appropriately, but leave them with comments that demonstrates an understanding of the correct approach. Oftentimes, if I manage to get the answer wrong on my own assignment, I will say so in my comments to the other students, so there's a shared feeling of learning instead of an air of condescendence. And that leads me to my final point on this topic. I've received some negative comments in response to my assignments that were not only unhelpful, but simply and plainly rude, and other students have reported the same things happening to them. Students complain about this phenomenon quite frequently, and it does tend to encourage some students to quit attending University of the People. It is very unfortunate that this discourages people enough that they should choose to quit attending the university. Although rude comments and unfair grading does occur, I would say it does not occur enough to impact my choice to continue studying here. The fact is, the world is full of people who are unable to tactfully communicate suggestions for improvement to others. That is a failure on them and not on you. Their failure should not prevent anyone from bettering themselves. And if you let it stop you, you are not doing yourself any favors. In fact, I would take it as a lesson on how not to be. If someone's comments have hurt you, you should not take it personally, but instead try to understand what they're saying and decide if you will legitimize it or not. If you think their feedback was harsh, but there's a point in there somewhere, then learn from it and grow from it. But if you think someone was simply being rude just to be rude, then disregard their comments. Working on that emotional side of yourself while you're still in school will benefit you and teach you a lot about how to properly engage with coworkers. Although it is difficult to deal with people who have no regard for the feelings of others, it is sadly a fact of life. And the only thing you can do is to work on yourself and how you deal with those people. If you feel like the grade you received from a student has considerably decreased your overall grade unfairly, only then would I consider contacting the instructor about amending your marks. Small 1 or 2 point docks will not impact your overall grade enough that you should be worried. My personal philosophy on my grades at this school is that if I do my best, my grades will average out and I will receive the grade I deserve. So far, that philosophy has served me well. I stress less about my grades and still manage to do well overall. When you can focus more on learning instead of tracking each point, you get more joy and satisfaction from the process. I have received helpful criticism much more often than unhelpful criticism, and I suspect this trend will continue. It is human nature to remember only the negative things and dwell on them. But if you are armed with the knowledge about yourself as a human, in time it will become easier to deal with the negative scenarios when they creep up. These 2 criticisms have been on my mind for a while, so I wanted to take some time to address them, since I know they bother a lot of people. In my opinion, if you are also in the position where you cannot afford to attend a regionally accredited school, or you want to explore other career options without committing to massive debt, then I feel like University of the People is a really good choice despite some of the negative aspects. The model is far from perfect, but I have learned so much so far, and the interactions I've had with so many different types of people have encouraged me to learn more about the way the world truly is. The value here lies not in the degree, the physical piece of paper, but in the experience. With University of the People, you don't have the option of floating by just to get a degree. That simply isn't enough. You really need to devote yourself to learning and improving yourself, and once you realize that's where the true value lies, I hope you will be able to find joy along the journey like I have. Thank you.